this tutorial session. Good. And 1 second here. Okay. So good. This is our first tutorial session this morning. Welcome. I can see that more people are joining. At any moment you feel like asking me a question, please just stop my explanation. No problem with that. And I could go back or give you more examples if required. I work as a teacher for UNET. Well, as a professor for UNET, but I work more time, behind the computer than actually at front with students. And I have also worked for Colegio Científico de Costa Rica for a couple of years, and I worked for many companies in the past. Maybe I have students here who are already working on technical support for any company. I worked like for 2 years for IBM, Stream International, and some other companies that taught me a lot. And I'm very happy to help people like you because I was one like you in the past. So I'm super happy to be here teaching for the computer science courses this morning. So let's get started. So this is our tutorial lesson number 1. Today we're going to have a very concise review of the simple present tense as compared to the present progressive or present continuous. One of the things you should know is teachers here in Costa Rica, they always call it like present progressive or present continuous. But there's no distinction to that, right? Actually, if you Google it, if you like, go through this, you're gonna have like people calling it either way. Well, I'm gonna call it either progressive or continuous as we go through the presentation. But the first thing that I want to explain, I don't want to explain this because maybe in the first course it was explained already, but I want to have like a short review of the simple present tense. So one of the things that was targeted in the unit was like how to build questions in the simple present tense, all right? So let's get down to business. So as I said, first, we're going to start with the review of tenses. And this chart, I think like I'm the chart guy. I think like people who have to do with computer science, we're always after the more practical way to access knowledge, right? So in here to the left, you can see how the chart explains how do I build sentences that could be built with the plural pronouns plus the first pronoun, which is very important. So what do we do in here is like first, it is I. It's the most important, an appeal to the ego, of course. And then we have the collective pronouns or plural pronouns. It is not only one person. It's more than one person. So they deserve importance too. And then we have the individual pronouns, right? Each of them one at a time, but they are highly significant because they ask us for a little change in terms of the spelling, right? So in the affirmative sentences, what we're going to have is a subject pronoun that precedes the simple form of the verb or the dictionary form of the verb all of the times, right? In the case of drink, if you go to the dictionary, you're going to find the verb drink is spelled like this, and you get a definition to a word that has been given to you this way. But if our subject pronoun happens to be he, she, or it, then I have to start obeying to the rules for the spelling change. And this is the rules for proper affixation, well, suffixation of the verb. In this case, all of the verbs in simple present that would follow subject pronouns he, she, or it will take an S or ES as their final letters, right? So to the right, you have another little chart that explains on the spelling rule again. I know that this was part of the first course, but I really wanted you to review this before you get to the quiz and to the first exam, and you have to type in the correct form of the verb after, of course, having discriminated the correct form to be used. Because it would be like a very sad story that you already discriminated with. I mean, like if it is simple past or sorry, simple present or present continuous. But in typing in the space, you're making a mistake and then you lose the point. So please review this before answering quiz number 1 in exam number 1. And this is the thing to be reviewed our whole lives, right? Um, and well, basically the rules, you know them. All of the verbs when they are let's say conjugated, or British people would say declined. to he, she, or it, they should finish with s or es. And we start with rule number one. Most verbs just take the s, as the case of drinks. Some verbs, those ones that end in ch, s, sh, x, and z, are going to finish with es. We added, and actually it's pronounced eased, right? Ease. And then verbs that give me consonant plus or final consonant plus y, they drop the y, they change it to I, and then the es is added. It's the case of try, tries, fry, fries, study, studies. If the verb follows in a vowel and then a y, I don't change the y, I keep it, and I add the s, and that gives me pronunciation z, right? I don't know if you remember the pronunciation rules. Then, of course, we have irregulars, right? Do changes to does, go changes to goes, and be is going to have like a special declination, and then have always changes to has, right? Good. When we are creating negative sentences, which I always call them the super easy sentences, all we have to do is to use as an auxiliary form of do, and that is do not or does not, don't or doesn't. And then we write the simple form of the verb. Here's where I say this is the super easy form because it costs no trouble. I know I have to use doesn't. As my secondary school teacher would say, the S was spent here. I already use it. So my verb has to be written in simple form, right? And then it's the same when we're writing questions. If it is an affirmative or yes, no question, I use the simple form do. I use the subject, then the verb, and of course, it's a question. I have to add a question mark if I'm writing a question. And if it is a question in which the main subject happens to be he, she, or it, any of the pronouns from the third person singular, I use does, I use the subject, and I write or use the verb form in the simple because I already spent the s or es in the auxiliary form. It's a very easy method to recognize the fact that to avoid forgetting that since I'm using does, then I have to write the simple form of the verb. And for information questions, we call information questions those questions in which there is a question word like what, when, why, who, where at the very beginning. It's an information question because these question words, they elicit for information. It's not a yes or no answer what I'm going to get. What I'm going to get is a piece of information I'm in need for. What I do is I write the question word or I state the question word first. Then I use the auxiliary form of do if it is for I, you, we, or they, or does for he, she, or it. Then I use a subject and the simple form of the verb, of course. And if there is something else to be added to the question, then I add it after the verb in simple form and question mark, or the intonation for the question, which is a rising intonation. In information questions, we do a rising intonation, right? Where do you live? Right? Good. Okay. As I said, if you feel like you need to interrupt me or you need more examples, you could always do that. I'll pay attention to your questions. Okay. The second verb tends to be reviewed is the present continuous or present progressive. Okay. This is quite simple, but we have to pay attention to little details. First, in order to create present continuous, we need it to be like that. We need it to be present. The present in the present continuous or present progressive is given by the present form of the verb be. That is or are, right? Or right? So that gives me the present. Now I need it to be continuous or progressive. And that in English is created by adding the suffix ing to the last part of the verb, right? In the case of work, it gives me working, right? So once I have my present represented with the form of be that corresponds and my continuous verb that has been added suffix ing, I say I have a verb that has been given to me in the form of the present continuous or present progressive. The negative form to this is always created by adding the negative form of be. We could say, based on what I explained, that the negative form of the present continuous gives me negative present, and then it is continuous, right? As we add the negative form to the form of be. I'm not, aren't, isn't, quite common, right? Whenever we're writing questions, the form of be, the form that gives me the present, goes before the subject pronoun, name, or object, and the form of the ing verb comes after. Okay? Sorry. Okay. These kind of questions, yes, no questions, are going to have answers that are answers in the simple present, right? In the form of be. So, for example, if I'm asked, are you explaining? Yes, I am. Are you speaking? Yes, I am, right? Are you paying attention? Yes, you are, right? And then the negative possible question is no, I'm not. No, you're not. And for information questions, that's as easy as placing the question word why, where, when, who before the subject pronoun. Who is explaining? It's the tutor. The tutor is explaining, right? Now, we also have spelling rules with the ing, but this is pretty much about adding ing. We always add ing, right? We have to pay attention to one-syllable verbs because one-syllable verbs, when they are given in the format consonant, vowel, consonant, reading from here, run, consonant R, vowel U, consonant N, I have to double, I cannot forget to double the final consonant before adding ing, okay? Another thing that I have to say is for silent final E's, we always drop them and we add ing. As in the case of leave, sorry, as in the case of creating, okay? We always drop the E and add ing. And in the case of one syllable verbs, again, we double the last consonant, then we add ing. This is about the structure. And I'm explaining this about the structure because, as I said, I know this was explained in course one, but now we're going to go to discriminate. The main issue here is we're going to have to discriminate. Is it simple present that I have to fill with which I have to fill in the blanks, or is it going to be present continuous? Okay, now let's get to that. But we do that in the quiz, we do that in the exam once we know this is super clear. How is it that I'm going to write the form of the verb in the space? Now, next question is, now that I know how to write the right verb form in the space, next question is, what's the tense? What's the form that I write in the space? If I have to discriminate, if this is an either or exercise in which I have to fill in the blanks, regarding the tense, well, the time words that are given to us or the tense clues that are given to us within a paragraph or text. Let's get to that. Okay, first we're going to talk about the simple present, okay? The simple present essentially is going to have like four main domains, let's say, four fields, four meanings in which I know I'm to fill in the space or I'm to use the simple present tense. First one is when I have to state, when I am to state facts that are universally true, okay? And here we have an example. It says a CPU processes instructions. That's a fact, right? That is what a CPU is created to do, right? Okay. Universal truth. Accepted facts. Things I cannot reject, all right? And then we have a second use. It's for stable situations, stable conditions. Things that are always like that, okay, without a change. They don't develop through time. They don't change through time. They happen to be the way they are, period. They are stable conditions or states. For example, it says, example one says, our company develops open source software. That is what the company does. The company was created to do this. It's a stable condition. The company is not going to change. Okay? It's not going to change the type of production or maybe the item they produce. It was created with the aim of producing this sort of software, right? And then we have another example. The server room requires constant cooling, right? Constant cooling gives me the idea I need a stable situation, right? I need a state, this state of being things, constant cooling. Otherwise, the server would break, right? So, first, again, for facts, for universally accepted pieces of facts, right? For the realness of truth. First, that is the first field, the first meaning, first usage, first function of simple present. Second use, stable conditions, things that have to do like that, the status quo of things, right? Let's talk about two more. First one, for actions and habits, and this is actions that are repeated as a constant in life, right? So this applied to computer science is seen in examples like the system administrator checks server logs every morning. That's part of his role, right? This is like a job description, a role description for a job title, right? The system administrator checks servers logs every morning. That is what he does. If we consider this, if we review this with the two other filters, this is something that happens this way, right? It's a stable. As this is the stable role for this job title. Okay? Another thing, this is a fact. This is something he has to do. And what else? Now it's a repeated action. It's part of the habit of this person who's been entitled the position of system administrator, right? So we can actually go through the filters. The first one, true, yes. Second, true, yes. Is this a habit? Yes. For him, it is. And then we have it for and this is a very specific use of the simple present tense when it is for schedules and timetables, right? Because we have components, we have gadgets, we have functions that are scheduled to happen on a timeline, on a timetable. And this also applies for the filters. I mean, like when I say the software update deploys on Tuesday evenings, if it's been programmed to do so, right, this is the fact. If this is constant, it's stable, right? It seems so routine because it's Tuesday evenings that it seems to us repeated actions. We have it. And now it's been given a set time. It's in a timetable. So if you see these functions, let's say usages, let's call them usages of the simple present tense. If we take them as filters, and if we approach these exercises as, okay, let's see if the filters apply to this first. Can I consider it a fact? Okay. If the software has been programmed to do so, it is a fact, right? It is going to happen, right? This is going to happen Tuesday evenings, period. It's been programmed to happen. Second, it is a stable behavior, right? It is a stable condition. It is a way of being. Yes, it is. That was the second usage. Now, is this repeated? It's customary. You just program it to be so. It is. It is simple present. And now it's been given a time. There's a time being given for this. It is. So this is simple present. So in discriminating the use of the simple present, if I have used my filters, right, for this very verb, and it gives me checked, 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 checked. Okay, this is the one I have to use. Now, The how do I write the form of the verb in this space, that has to do with what we saw at the very beginning of this tutorial session, right? Good. Thank you. And let's keep going. Thanks for your attention. Let's keep going. Now we're going to talk about the present continuous. The present continuous or progressive, it talks about ongoing actions, right? It talks about things that are happening now, right now, at this very moment. And this is going to be our first filter. Is this process going on right now at this very moment during this very session? Is there actual motion? Is there actual programming or writing? Is there something actually going on? If so, then I'm going to use the present continuous. Present continuous is made of two parts. We already reviewed that. We're going to use the present form of be. Always mandatory, cannot skip it, otherwise it's wrong. And I'm going to use the verb with the suffix ing, right? Obviously, I cared for the spelling changes already. I double if I had to double the last consonant. I dropped the e if I had to drop the e, and then I added ing, and that is going to give me the present continuous form of an ongoing process. It's installing in the first example, right? It's configuring in the second example, an ongoing process, okay? First use. Then we have a second use. It says is for temporary actions, but careful about these temporary actions, because when we talk about temporary actions, these are not actions that just happened once. No, it's for a continuous repetition of temporary actions. Okay, in here I highlighted these temporary actions. They actually happen over a period of time, right? Maybe this action happened now. Okay, 1 second. Okay, now it's not happening. The next second is happening. It's like when the internet service is not stable, right? I have it, I don't have it. I have it, I don't have it. What is happening? I am having trouble with my connectivity. I am experiencing trouble with the connectivity, right? With the internet service. It is not that I have problem, right, with the internet service, because this action that is temporary keeps repeating, keeps on happening, right? So that gives me the temporary action that is repeated over a period of time as an action that has to be described with the present continuous. The developers are working. Okay, they are working. But when they have lunch, they are not working. But it doesn't mean that they finished working. They are working on something. So this action is ongoing, it's going on. So the first filter, is this action going on through the day? They are working, yes. Second filter, could be temporary, could be interrupted by their lunch, yes, but they continue to do it. It's an ongoing action, right? Then we have in computer science, um, some, let's say, well, the function calls it trends, but let's say how the market changes. I mean, like how technology keeps, being developed in a way that, wow, the market is such shifting day after day, so that we can like perceive it as something that is always like, being developed, is always ongoing, right? So for example, it says like, this is the third filter for developing situations or trends, but it is developing. These situations are going on. So the first filter, is it an ongoing action? Yes, it is. Is in here it says is becoming, right? This cloud computing is becoming increasingly popular day after day, month after month, week after week, right? So let's go back to the filters, right? That is becoming is an ongoing action. It could be temporary. Maybe one day we advance, maybe one day we don't. Let me check this message. Sorry. Hola, sí, Marina Montero, un gusto saludarla. Claro que les comparto la presentación y con mucho gusto les comparto el video. ¿De acuerdo? Y perdón porque hace un ratito me lo enviaste, pero estoy I'm so into the explanation. Pero eso he hecho con todo gusto y les voy a compartir algunos links porque yo sé que es difícil a veces. Puña, ustedes tienen la computadora siempre. Entonces es un recurso genial para aprender más inglés. Lo que les quiero, bueno, y es personal, compartir es algunos recursos en línea donde aprender más inglés que tal vez de repente es más, los va a guiar más como por el norte de lo que estén estudiando. Entonces les comparto la presentación. En el Drive van a tener un documento, la presentación y mi video. ¿De acuerdo? Entonces les quiero además compartir un par de cosas ahí. Hay un software, bueno, una plataforma que nos permite escribir, por ejemplo, una presentación y nos la va a dar con símbolos fonéticos para que tengamos buena pronunciación, pero al mismo tiempo nos lee lo que escribimos, lo que redactamos, para que aprendamos a pronunciarlo bien. Entonces, ustedes como future help desk administrators, you know, HR agents and so forth, you need this. So, yes, I'm sharing. Definitely. Okay. Going back to this, and we're reviewing filter number three. Um, when we have a situation that is ongoing, right? It might seem to be temporary, sorry, but it's still ongoing through the pass of the time. And it replicates, right, through weeks, to months, then we're still talking about the present continuous. And these three filters together could be used in front of a situation in which it's critical for me to decide whether this could be simple present or present continuous. But the last one, this one for fixed future arrangements, is very specific of the present progressive or present continuous. Okay? Once again, remember if I say present progressive is the same as present continuous. This is when we talk about a situation that has been set or arranged to happen in a near future. Okay? All right? For example, when I say the software update is running this afternoon. Okay, you accepted to run the software update. You gave it an hour this afternoon for it to run. Okay, so it is not running right now, it's the morning, but it is gonna be running in the afternoon, and this is because you program it to be. You have a definite plan or a definite arrangement for it to run in the afternoon. Okay? So this is very specific of the future progressive, and my advice is for quiz number one, use this one separate filter whenever you feel like it gives me the idea that this has been arranged to happen in later hours at a later time, or not today, but in a near future. Okay? So this one is very specific. Okay? Uh-huh. Good. Let me now, well, sorry, I didn't show you the examples. I said for developing situations, the verb is very characteristic. In fact, becoming. To become something takes a lot of time, hours, right? To become an athlete takes hours and hours of training, right? This person is training his entire life in the end, right? Artificial intelligence is transforming. It is not like many industries. It's not like it transformed. It could be a fact. It could be, but it has to be proven. It is not proven yet, so I cannot use it as a fact. If I say artificial intelligence transforms many industries, what evidence I have of so? Well, if you have your evidence, right? If you have your evidence, if you can back it up, could be simple present. But at the moment, we don't have that data as to process it, right? So it's transforming, yes. Possibly with the time, it's going to be all of them. But yes, it's a process. And our examples for definite plans and arrangements. Here we have a very good example. We are deploying the new server rack next Monday. This is set to be in a future time, in a near future, next Monday. But this has future meaning, but has been arranged. So, and the team is presenting the QR software roadmap tomorrow. Okay, they are going to do this tomorrow. It's been arranged to be so. So I'm going to use present continuous with a future meaning for something that has been definitely planned or definitely arranged. Okay. Let's take a look to this. The 3D printer, a complex prototype at the moment. At the moment gives me this very moment right now. This process is going on right now. It's an ongoing process. It's printing. High-end graphics cards, significant power. You know about high-end graphic cards more than I do, right? So you could call this a fact, right? So I use simple present. Our IT department upgrade all office computers over the next few weeks. Over the next few weeks. So it seems like the IT department has a plan, has arranged it to be so, and is happening over the next few weeks. It's a near future, right? Or they want me to see it as a near future at least, right? It's upgrading, right? Dust accumulate in computer fans if you don't clean them regularly. How true is that? You could tell, huh? Accumulates. Look, the server indicator light blink unusually fast. Look. If it says look, it seems like this is being thrown to us right now. Look, it's happening now, right? It's blinking, right? It's going on right now. And it says more modern solid state drives offer much faster boot times than traditional HDDs. How true? You see the fact? Is this something that is ongoing? Is this something that has been arranged to happen in the near future? Offer, right? Of course, right? So to my last two questions, the answer was no, no. It's not ongoing, no. It's not arranged for a near future, no. So use simple past. Oh, sorry, use simple present. Okay, let's keep on going with this. Oh, sorry. Says complete the sentences using the correct form of the verb in parentheses. Says number one, the new application currently, right? And the verb is to download. Let's see if I can minimize this. In the background, the new application is currently downloading. We're going to be careful with the adverbs of frequency because in the form of the present continuous, they are going to be placed, well, with the adverbs of frequency, adverbs of time, time words, or time phrases. They could be placed between the form of be and the ing verb, okay? So in the case of currently, let's think it is usually, for taking examples from the book, is usually downloading, right? Is often downloading, right? So we place it between the form of be and the ing form of the verb. And it also respects the fact that if it is in simple present tense, my adverb of frequency or adverb of time will come after be anyway, right? And only precedes other verbs. Since it says good software design always on user experience. Always is a fact. It's a general truth, right? Focuses, of course. Careful with this one. Right now, Done. They are already telling me, right? This is an ongoing action. It's debugging, right? Then it says our cybersecurity team 24/7. Huh. This one is really tricky because it could be a fact depending on what kind of cybersecurity, let's say, plan or platform or equipment or software you're using, or the intention of the writer with the sentence and the context given. But right now, I have to understand that the intention and the context gives me a fact that the cybersecurity team does this because this is their work role description for their job title, right? Mhm. Then it says cloud-based solutions eliminate the need for local server maintenance. Is this ongoing? No. Is this a future plan or arrangement? No. So eliminate. And tomorrow, right? Tomorrow, and the verb is test. And it's the latest version of the operating in oh, here, system. Okay. It seems like the testers have already arranged this to happen tomorrow, right? So are testing, right? So I hope with this review, we are going to make it. You're going to make it. You're going to score all of the points. And in case you have a doubt, you're going to have this for you to review, okay? Now let's talk about something that is like more practical steps in a sequential process. Well, first, we have to know that there are keywords. Well, the title here is Keywords for Sequential Steps in Computer Processes. Yes, everything that has to do with computers, as far as I know, is about processes that are going on or not going on, right? Um, well, there is a set of words that we could call time words or procedure or sequential words. Or what other names have I listened that have been given to them? Um, I don't know if somebody has ever called them organizers, but they do help us organize in the right sequential order. The thing is, there is a very practical list given to you here in the presentation. For example, well, the words that a person would use as to indicate the first step could be first, to begin, initially, to start, but be careful with the word or the phrase before you start. Okay, just to check. Aún no está el link. Aún no está el link. Tan pronto yo pueda guardar la presentación y tan pronto pueda, bueno, subirles todo de una vez, es lo que quiero, subirles el video de esta tutoría, la presentación y el documento donde les sugiero ahí algunos links para ustedes. Entonces, no, aún no lo he sugerido, se los voy a postear en el foro. Perdón, tal vez eso es lo que realmente me están preguntando. Se los posteo en el foro terminando bueno, el día de hoy y lo envío a los demás profesores porque algunos de ustedes no son estudiantes que yo evalúo para que les compartan también en el foro. Listo. So yes, I was saying be careful with before you start, because before you start could come before first or to begin or initially to start. So before you start, for example, go to I don't know, cambridge1.com. Okay. First, enter your username and password. See? So before you start could actually come preceding any of these other words, right? And then we have many that could help us, keep the flow of what comes next. And these phrases and words are next, then, after that, subsequently, afterwards, following this, right? And then we have a way to indicate that maybe there are a couple of steps that are like parallel, Parallel means that they are happening in at the same time. Esto es como paralelamente, right? Or simultaneously, right? They are going on. And these are meanwhile or at the same time. And then we have conditionals too. In a condition, what a condition does is to tell me, si esto pasa, esto debe pasar, right? So you first have the condition. So the condition happens first, and then we have the result. For example, if you start your computer on, you can use it, right? And concluding steps, some of the words we could use is like finally, lastly, to conclude, in summary, as the last step, okay? So this is pretty much about words that indicate what happens next. We have some examples here of processes. So first, download the software package from the official website, and the person uses the ones for the following steps this way. Next, after that, but he could have give us after that first and then next. Then gives us a condition. It means this, if the installation is successful, happens first, and we have a result. Then, and finally, right? Okay. We have another example. This is an installation of a new software program. We have another example. What is different in here, guys? You don't have the words that indicate the sequential order. You don't have them. So this is wrong. No, it is not wrong. Why it is not wrong? You have numbers for the steps. So the ones who are working like in troubleshooting, or if in the future you happen to write your own directions on how to install a program or so, of course, if you don't use the words for sequential order, it's because you're indicating the steps with numbers. And so be careful also in the evaluations for the course with this. This is not wrong. They're giving you the order: first, second, third, fourth, right? Now, if we want to be like a little bit more self-explanatory, right? Or helpful, maybe, I would go like writing first, second, third. If you're writing like directions for a software that or application that was going to be used by kids, what would be better? First, second, finally, or for the elderly, okay? Before all of this, next, okay? All right. And here is like a little example of how to deal with this. We are given a bank of words: before you start, finally, first, after that, next, then, afterwards. So how do we organize these steps using the words that indicate sequential order? Well, the only one, well, there are two that for sure I cannot get confused with. The one that happens before you start something, right? Before you start, navigate to login. And of course, the last one. But let's keep the sequential order going on. So before you start, navigate to login. Okay, now I need one as to start because this is before you start. So I'm going to use first. Okay. And once I've been given the first step, these are middle steps, right? But they come in this order. To keep the flow, I could use many, right? I can use after that, enter, user ID and email. Next, receive verification. Then enter code, click link. Afterwards, set new password, right? Or I can use afterwards first, after that second. These ones for middle steps could be used the way you prefer. They have the same meaning, Okay, they help us to keep the flow between steps, but we need to close. So we're going to use finally. Okay. This is about the sequential order in processes that have to do with computing. And well, finally, we're going to close the tutorial session with I think this is the content in terms of vocabulary that we have first in the book, actually, right? Well, we have a person that bridges business needs and IT solutions. Seems like he really knows everything, the know-hows, right, of his occupation, her occupation, and says that the aim of this is to improve organizational efficiency. What person does so? You can have like this, a look to these job titles in the first page. Well, I think it's like the first page of Unit 1. This is the systems analyst, right? Who leads projects, right? Who leads the projects? It has to be the project manager, right? The person who provides technical support and troubleshooting. I'm pretty sure that some of you are already working in technical support for a company, and I'm very happy so because you're going to learn a lot of very specific language in English that is going to help you a lot through your life. This is a help desk agent, a technical support agent, right? Um, Not that I have heard this quite frequently, but it could be like the troubleshooting agent, right? Or the one app for technical support at any site in the country. The one person who writes software is the software developer, right? So, what is the skill that you have to train for this? Because you're going to encounter this in the quiz and possibly in the exam. You are given a series of descriptors of the role of this job title, but there should be one or two because possibly you're going to have like job titles in which they have to do, tasks that other person with the same expertise or training would do. But there is one at least that is very specific and only applies for one specific job title. So you're looking for that one, right? And once you have found it, you can use it as a filter, right? Once you have found that very specific, you go like, okay, this one could do this or not. No, this is only for A, B, C, or D, right? Then we go to the last one. Manages, secures, and optimizes crucial data. Well, this has to do with actually managing, right? Um, mm, Data for the database administrator, right? And repairs and maintains computers. You already know, is the computer technician, right? We're going to find something like this in both quiz and exam. And again, what to do? Find that one descriptor that only applies for the job title, right? You distinguish amongst the others, right? And finally, a couple of details from the book that you can never forget. And I hope after my explanation you will never shake is that when you are working with decimal values in English, the book says you have two possibilities, right? One is to say point, you don't say 0 point, no. You don't say 0 point, no. You say not 5 4 or period 5 4, right? That is what we're going to do, all right? And then I also gave you a chart with the prefix names, kilo, mega, giga, right? You have the decimal size, right? And the size in thousands. I added this because I found it practical for your formation. And you have it there. I hope it's just a little help. And I added to the right how to read it, right? So when something is al cuadrado, for example, this, potencial, exponencial, lo leemos 2 squared. If it is 4, 4 squared. If it is 5, 5 squared. If it is, well, al cubo, lo vamos a leer 3 cubed, 2 cubed, 4 cubed, right? But for the others, and this is not that we cannot read it like, well, as the rule, 2 to the power of 2, 3 to the power of 3. We can always do that. 4 to the power of 4. But from the 4 on, right? Cuando el exponente ya es de 4 para arriba, sí, ahí solo tenemos la forma de decirlo como to the power of el exponente, to the power of 10, to the power of 9, to the power of 7. And that is how you're going to read it, okay? All right. This leads to the end of the presentation. I don't know if you have any question that wasn't answered. It could be Spanish or English. Any comment? Jóvenes, cualquier pregunta, duda que pueda aclararles. Reitero mi compromiso de pasarles un link a un drive donde van a encontrar el video de este tutorial, esta presentación que les he preparado y un documento donde les estaré compartiendo otros links donde puedan seguir aprendiendo inglés aplicado a la carrera que han escogido. Y cualquier más bien comentario que tengan para ayudarme a asistirlos mejor. Igualmente me escriben al inbox de la plataforma y se los agradezco mucho. Because you always, as a professional who works for the sake of education, one of the things we have to know is we're never to finish our role of learners, right? So thank you very much for your attention this Saturday. Any question? Cualquier pregunta, comentario, jóvenes. Con todo gusto, que Dios los bendiga.
Gracias, profe.
Muchos éxitos en sus estudios. Gracias a ustedes y nos vemos entonces hasta la próxima. Hasta luego.
Muchas gracias, profe. Hasta luego.
Con todo gusto.
Thank you, teacher.
Pleasure. Have a great day.